Hello and welcome. We are on page number 1.8 of ICA material GST. Concept of GST. So what is GST? We have to understand the concept of GST. GST is a value added tax. GST is based upon VAT concept. In class 2 of our GST classes, we have understood various types of taxes like single point taxation, multi-point taxation, retail point taxation, and thereafter we also understand the concept of VAT. Now GST is also based upon VAT principles. Means it is a multi-point taxation. Tax is levied at every point of the chain, but however, at every point, input tax credit will be allowed subject to certain conditions. We already know that the indirect taxes are consumption taxes and the burden of tax will be borne by the ultimate consumer. Now GST will be on manufacture, sale and consumption of goods as well as services. Previously, VAT used to be levied only on commodities, but though GST is laid upon the principle of VAT, but GST is more comprehensive when compared to VAT because VAT is only levied on goods or commodities, but GST is levied on both goods as well as services. Next comes this GST is a multi-point taxation and it is levied at all points in the chain, and at every point the tax credit will be given. So you have input tax credit. For the example of multi-point taxation and how the VAT system works, you can refer to class 2 of our series of classes on GST. What will happen is, in multi-point taxation, in VAT concept, tax will be levied at every stage, but that person in that chain will pay tax only on the value added. In the sense that output tax will be calculated and tax paid at the preceding point will be allowed as input tax credit, and only the balance amount of tax will be paid. That balance amount of tax will be equal to the tax rate calculated on value added. In this indirect tax concept, the burden will be borne by the final consumer. We already understood in class 1 that one of the feature of indirect taxes is that the levy will be on one person and it will be finally borne by another person. The burden of tax will be transferred to the other person. It will be transferred in the chain until the final consumer. So the burden will be borne only by the final consumer. Next, however, the final consumer will bear the tax and he will not be able to transfer to the burden to another person. That person is the last person in the chain. The consumer is the last person in the chain, and the burden of tax will be transferred in the chain to the last person, and it will be ultimately borne by the consumer. No cascading effect of taxes. What will happen in VAT system is that tax on tax will not be levied. So where a tax on tax is levied, it is called as a cascading effect, but where tax on tax is avoided, it will be said that the cascading effect of taxes has been avoided. Now this can be explained by way of an example. Let us say let us assume the rate of tax be 10% for convenience sake. 10% for convenience sake. And we assume it to be multi-point taxation. We assume it to be multi-point taxation. Now, for example, there is a manufacturer and there is a distributor. The manufacturer is selling the product for 100 rupees is the selling price. The indirect tax is 10%, it is 10 rupees, and the invoice price is 110 rupees. 110 rupees. Now let us say the distributor has bought the good for 110 rupees. The distributor has got the good for 110 rupees. Since this is a multi-point taxation, tax will be levied at every point, right? Now, if the distributor bought the goods for 110 rupees and he is selling it and he is adding profit and he is selling it for, let us say, I will do one thing. I will also place the cost and profit also. The cost is 80 rupees, the profit is 20 rupees, and the price is 100 rupees. Now for this person, the cost is 110 rupees. He is adding a profit of 15. His selling price is 125, and the tax is 10% on 125. It is 12.5, and the invoice price is 137.5 is the 137.5 is the invoice price. Now let us examine here that the 110 rupees, the price at which the distributor has bought the good, contain tax of 10 rupees. This is 100 plus cost of 100 plus 10 rupees. 100 plus 10 rupees. So in this 110 rupees, there is a tax of 10 rupees. So he has added a profit of 15. He is selling for 125. It implies that the 125 rupees contain this 10 rupees also. The 125 rupees contain this 10 rupees also. Now at the second stage, tax is levied on 125 rupees. Tax is levied on 125 rupees. So what is happening is there is a cascading effect. 10% is applied on a tax component also, because this 125 rupees include this 10 rupees tax also. When again 10% on 125 is applied, again 10% on 10 rupees is applied. Therefore there is a cascading effect of 1 rupee. How did we get this 1 rupee? We got this 1 rupee by multiplying the 10 rupees of tax paid at the preceding point into the rate of tax which is now applied. This is how there is a cascading effect in multi-point taxation. But however, when you come to VAT system, what will happen is, when you come to VAT system, though the VAT system is a multi-point taxation, but input tax credit will be allowed. Input tax credit will be allowed, and the allowing of input tax credit will eliminate the cascading effect. Now we will examine that also. Now here you have understood that in multi-point taxation there is a cascading effect because tax on tax is levied. But we will come to VAT and we will examine how this is going to change. Now when you come to, we will keep this example aside. We will keep this example aside and we will do the fresh calculation for VAT system. For multiple taxation under VAT system, let us say the cost is 80 rupees, but on this 80 rupees what has happened is at the preceding point we will give output tax. This is output tax, input tax credit and net tax paid. Now I won't take 80 rupees as cost here because the manufacturer at the time of purchase of the raw material has paid 8 rupees as the tax. So I will take in the input tax credit side that 8 rupees. Right. Now the cost is 72 rupees and this fellow added a profit of, let us say we will take the profit as 20 rupees. Now the the selling price is 92 and after writing the selling price we will add indirect tax. We will add tax is 10%, so that will be 9.2 paise. Then what will be the invoice price? Invoice price is 101.2. 101.2 is the selling price. Now what is the output tax? Output tax is 9.2. Output tax is 9.2. What is the input tax credit? It is 8. So only 1.2 rupees will be paid by the manufacturer to the government. So what is the total amount of selling price 92, on which the government how much it should get? 9.2. How did the government get? The government got this 9.2 in a scattered manner or in a piecemeal manner. First from the manufacturer, the person who sold the raw material to this manufacturer, from that person government took 8 rupees and from this manufacturer government took 1.2 rupees. Total became 9.2 rupees. Here the selling price is 92. 10% on 92 is 9.2. Now what is the price at which this person has bought 92? What is the amount of tax borne by this person? It is 9.2. Now how much is the profit this distributor is making? This distributor is making a profit of 15 rupees. So what will be the selling price? It is 107. 107. Now what is 10% on 107? It is 10.7. So what is the invoice price? 117.7 is the invoice price. Now what is the output tax here? It is 10.7. 10.7. What is the input tax credit available? 9.2. And how much this distributor has paid to the government? It is 1.5. Now by the time of selling by this distributor, the selling price is 107. 10% of 107 is 10.7. Government has got it by way of 8 rupees. Government has got it by way of 8 rupees. Thereafter next is 1.2 rupees. Next is 1.5 rupees. So 8 rupees government got it from the seller of the raw material, 1.2 got it from the manufacturer, 1.5 got it from the distributor, and total it amounted to 10.7, and the selling price is 107. The tax at the rate of 10% is 10.7. What is paid by this distributor is equal to what is received by the government. Means if the chain continues, this VAT system will also continue. Now understand here, in the preceding example, which is not a VAT, you have a cascading effect of 1 rupee. How did we get the cascading effect? This 125 comprises of this 10 rupees also, tax paid by the distributor to the manufacturer. On that also again 10% is levied, so 1% is the cascading effect, tax on tax. But if you come to the VAT model, you will not have a cascading effect, because neither at the manufacturer place you did not take it into the tax paid on raw material, you did not take into the price. This was kept separately. Now, where though the invoice price is 101 rupees, the invoice which was made by the manufacturer is 101.2. When it came to the distributor, what we have done is, what are all the tax component is there, we kept it separately in ITC. Now we took only the cost. This 92 rupees do not include the tax component. Thereby, the price of 107 also do not include the tax component. That tax component was kept separately here. Now, when you are applying 10% on 107, this 107 is not having any tax component in it. Thereby, when you are applying 10%, you are not applying tax on tax again. So, the VAT model eliminates cascading effect. Cascading effect is nothing but a tax on tax, which will increase the price of the product. If you examine the invoice price in the preceding example is 135, but invoice price of the distributor in VAT model is 117.7 only, which is less. All other facts remain the same. All other facts, the profit percentage, the cost percentage, etc. remain the same. So cascading effect is a tax on tax, and in VAT model or GST model, because GST is also based on VAT model. However, GST is a comprehensive one which includes both commodities or goods as well as services. The cascading effect can be avoided. So this is the meaning of no cascading of taxes. And also here we had one point that the tax is levied only on value added. Now what is the value addition? If you can examine, the net tax paid is only 1.5 rupees here. What is the tax that has been paid by the distributor? The net tax paid by the distributor is only 1.5. Now this concept is called as VAT because the distributor bought the goods for 92 rupees. The profit added or value added by him is only rupees 15. Now you calculate the rate of tax 10% on 15. What is 10% of 15? 10% of 15 is nothing but 1.5. But however, we calculated this in a roundabout manner. First we calculated the output tax, then we reduced the input tax credit available and arrived at the 1.5 rupees of net tax payable by the distributor. Simply you can also do like this also. That is, what is the value added? 15 rupees. What is the tax rate? 10 percentage. 10 percentage of 15 is nothing but 1.5. Sir, you can directly do this method, which is very easy, but why are you calculating the output tax, and from there you are reducing the input tax, and from there you are arriving the net tax paid? So instead of doing all these things, why don't you directly apply 10 percentage of 15, which is the concept of VAT? This output tax and reduction of input tax credit has certain significance, which we will understand as we learn the subject, because there will be some blocked credits, there will be some ineligible credits, and also where the tax is not received by the government in the preceding point, then the person, this distributor, will not be able to claim the input tax credit, and he has to pay the entire 10.7 rupees to the government. So there are certain things which we will understand at a later point of our discussion. So this is called the concept of VAT. Now moving forward, what we have, the next one is continuous chain of credits. So here the manufacturer got the input tax credit, the distributor also got the input tax credit. If we continue this chain with the wholesaler, retailer also, we will understand that there also everybody get the input tax credit. Thereafter, the burden will be borne by the final consumer. If you can examine the seller of the raw material to the manufacturer, what he has done, he transferred the burden to the manufacturer. Now, what did the manufacturer do? The manufacturer transferred the burden to the distributor. What will be the distributor doing? He will transfer the burden to the wholesaler. Wholesaler will transfer the burden to the retailer. Retailer will transfer the burden to the consumer. That consumer, the ultimate person who will bear the indirect tax component. No cascading of taxes, that we have already understood through this example. If input tax credit is not allowed, then tax on tax is to be paid, which will increase the price of the product and the burden on the consumer. But however, in VAT model, where input tax credit is allowed, the tax on tax will not be levied. Thereby, there will not be any cascading effect, as a result of which the prices will not increase. Going to the next topic, what is the need for GST in India? Why GST is introduced in India? What led to the introduction of GST in India? Because there is or there are some deficiencies in the existing VAT system. Therefore, GST has been introduced. GST is considered or was considered to be a cure for ills of existing indirect tax regime. In order to cure the deficiencies or cure the illnesses persisting and existing in the then indirect tax regime prior to 1st July 2017, the GST has been introduced from 1st July 2017. So why GST is introduced? Very simple. Under that existing system, there used to be deficiencies. To cure those deficiencies, the GST has been introduced. Now we should understand what were those definitions, what were those deficiencies which were prevailing in the value added taxation system which was in vogue prior to 1/7/2017. There used to be a lot of issues. Previously, before the introduction of GST, there used to be a lot number of taxes, but those lot number of taxes have been subsumed into the GST, and a single tax system has been introduced. Now what I will do is I will explain you certain issues and in the taxation system which was prevalent prior to the introduction of GST. Now prior to the introduction of GST, there used to be something called as excise duty. There used to be something called as excise duty. Excise duty. Now, excise duty was levied on manufacture. Excise duty was levied on manufacture. Next, there used to be CST, Central Sales Tax. The excise duty, the authority to levy excise duty vested with the central government. Vested with the central government. Then, what about the central sales tax? What about the central sales tax? The authority to levy central sales tax vests with central government, but levy and collection was made by the state government from where movement of goods commenced. I will explain it to you at a later point. Now, central sales tax was levied on interstate trade or commerce. The central sales tax was levied on interstate trade or commerce. The excise duty was levied on manufacture. This was levied and collected by the central government. Central sales tax is on interstate trade or commerce, but this, though the levy is by central government, it used to be collected. So it used to be collected by the government of that state from where the movement of goods commenced. We will take an example. And there used to be a state level VAT. Now, what is this state level VAT? It is on intrastate trade or commerce. Intrastate trade or commerce. Who used to levy this? Respective state governments used to levy. Now, in the first class, we understood that for the purpose of introduction of GST, a constitutional amendment was necessitated. So, why a constitutional amendment was necessitated? Because prior to that constitutional amendment, the central government has the authority to collect some taxes and the state governments has the authority to collect some taxes. If you examine here, the excise duty collection, the central government got the authority. CST, though central government got the authority, but it used to be levied and collected by that state government from where the movement of goods commenced. When coming to the state level VATs, it was levied on intrastate trade or commerce. CST was levied on interstate trade or commerce, and this state level VAT, the respective state government used to levy. Now, there used to be something called as service tax. The service tax was levied on provision of service, and the central government got the authority to levy the service tax. So these four types of taxes used to be the main taxes, and apart from these four taxes, there used to be entry tax, there used to be entertainment tax, advertisement tax, and what not, so on and so forth. There used to be many other taxes also. Now, coming to this. So excise duty used to be on a manufacturer and central government. We used to have a concept called as Senvat credit. Senvat credit. This is also a type of ITC. This is also a type of ITC. But this Senvat credit was available only at a manufacturer place. Let us say there is one Mr. A who manufacture raw material. Who manufacture raw material. There is one Mr. B who manufacture finished goods. Now A manufactured for 100 rupees. A manufactured, understand these examples very carefully so that you will get the concept. Before going into the GST provisions, first of all, it is very important to understand the concept. Let us say this fellow, the manufacturer of raw material. So what A manufactures is the finished product for A, but it is the raw material for B. Now A to manufacture this raw material of B, he has to purchase some raw material. A has to purchase certain raw material. Let us say he bought it for 100 rupees. Then he has this labor cost and also overhead cost, and thereafter total cost. Thereafter you have to add profit. Thereafter it is the selling price. It is the selling price. Thereafter you have to add the excise duty. Thereafter you get the total. Thereafter you have to add the sales tax or CST. I will explain that. What is that sales tax or CST? Thereafter it is the invoice price. Now come to the taxation part. Come to the taxation part. What he has to pay? He has to pay excise duty, output tax, ITC, and net excise duty payable. What else he has to pay? He has to pay sales tax or CST also has to be paid by him. Now come here. He bought the raw material for 100. Let us assume the rate of tax to be 10%. I will take only 90% because there was something called as Senvat credit concept. There was something called as Senvat credit concept. So I will take only 90 rupees here. So I will take in the input 10 rupees. Now labor is 15, overhead is 10 rupees. What is the total cost? Total cost is 115. I will add a profit of 20 rupees, and thereby selling price has become 115 plus profit, that is the selling price 135. Now let us assume that excise duty is at 10%. So excise duty is at 10%. Now add excise duty. Excise duty is 10%, that is 13.5. 13.5. Now what is the total after adding excise duty? Is equal to this plus this, 148.5. Now let us suppose this is a intrastate sale. Let us suppose this is a intrastate sale, and the sales tax is, for the convenience sake, assume it to be 14 percentage. 14 percentage. Now sale tax 14 percentage has to be levied on 148.5, on 148.5, 1 into 14 percentage, that is 1,4. So what is the invoice price? Is equal to this plus this. So that is the invoice price. 169.29 is the invoice price. Now in the class 2 of our series of GST classes, we understood a point that credit at the succeeding point will be allowed only when it is received by the government at a preceding point. That point you recollect and keep it in your mind. You have to apply here in order to understand the concept. Now here let us assume that this entire transaction is taking place in the state of Andhra Pradesh. This entire transaction is taking in this state of Andhra Pradesh. A bought the raw material also in Andhra Pradesh. A is also in Andhra Pradesh. B is also in Andhra Pradesh. Now we have two governments here, central government and the AP government. We have two governments here, central government and AP government. Now when the raw material is bought by the manufacturer A, another person manufactured this, on which he has charged an excise duty of 10. So at a preceding point, central government already got 10 rupees. At preceding point, central government already got 10 rupees. Now the excise duty is the subject of central government. A is also the manufacturer and he has levied an excise duty of 13.5. His output tax is 13.5. His output tax is 13.5. So ITC is 10 and net excise duty payable is 13.5. This is the Sunvat credit which was available in this excise duty era. Now at the second stage, how much the government got? Central government 3.5. Why did it give the credit of 10 rupees? Because at the preceding point it has already received the 10, so it gave the input tax credit. Now come to the sales tax. Here the sales tax is 14, and how much did the Andhra government got? The Andhra government got 20.7 rupees. It has got 20.7 rupees. 20.7 rupees. Now come to the core concept. Come to the core concept. What is the core concept? The core concept is here the excise duty is on manufacture, sales tax is on sale. If you observe, A has done both the transactions. The first transaction he manufactured. The second transaction what he has done is he has sold the product. When A has manufactured the product, excise duty got attracted and he need to pay 13.5. Now this is a central government subject. When he sells the product, sales tax get attracted and this is a state government subject, because prior to the amendment in the constitution, intrastate sales, the authority to levy tax on intrastate sales was with the state governments. So sales tax, the trigger for sales tax is sales. So this A, when he sells the goods, sales tax get attracted and he has to pay 20 rupees to the AP state government. Now understand here. At the time of calculation of this 20 rupees, 14% we applied on 148.5. We did not apply it on 135, which is the selling price. We applied it on 148.5. Means in this 148.5, 13.5 was also included. 13.5 was also included. Now understand here. There is a VAT concept in sales tax as well as SENVAT credit is there in the excise duty. But SENVAT was available only for manufacturers and the local sales tax was applicable on sales, and that too this tax is levied and collected by the state governments. Now here there is a cascading effect. Though there is a VAT model in excise duty as well as sales tax, but still there is a cascading effect. Why? Because the sales tax and the excise duty are dealt by two different governments. Excise duty was dealt by central government and the sales tax for on intrastate sale was dealt by the state government. Therefore, this 13.5 rupees which was included is not eliminated or not given credit. This 148.5 contains excise duty also, and sales tax of 14% is levied on 148.5, which includes excise duty. Thereby there is a cascading effect. Tax on tax is there. What is the tax on tax here? It is 14.5% on 13.5 is the tax on tax. Now this is cascading, right? I think you got the concept. Now come to the manufacturer B, who is also in Andhra Pradesh. What will happen is, this fellow manufacturer B, the invoice price for him is 169.2. But what is the excise duty component in it? Excise duty component is 13.5. What is the VAT component or sales tax component? the sales tax component is 20.7. Now in the preceding example, the manufacturer A was the first person. So this fellow did not have any ITC. So output tax was 20.7. There was no ITC because that was the first place where the item is sold. There is no ITC, and the output tax was 20.7. The output tax was 20.7. Now, so in this 169, 13.5 is excise duty, and 20.7 was 20.7 was the sales tax. Now, if you reduce 20.7 and 13.5, the cost to him is 135. The cost to him is 135. Labor 10 rupees, overheads 15 rupees. The total cost, how much this person incurred? The total cost is 160, profit of 15, and the selling price is 175. Add excise duty 17.5. 17.5. What is the total? The total is 192.5, and add sales tax 26.95, and what is the final price? 219.45. Now this person, for him the excise duty output is 17.5. 17.5. The input tax credit available was 13.5, and this person pays 4 rupees to the central government. This person pay 4 rupees to the central government. What is the state sales tax? 26.95. 26.95. Now what is the input tax credit? 20.70. So what is the net tax payable? 6.25. So 6.25 will be paid to the AP government. Now what is the total price? 192.26.95. This AP state government should get. How did it get? It got it by 20.7 at one place and 6.25 at one place. What is the total excise duty here? 17.5. How did the government got this 17.5? 10, 3.5 and 4, 17.5. Now you understand a concept here, which was the ailment prevailing prior to the introduction of GST. Though there was a VAT concept in excise duty, though there was a VAT concept in the state level VAT, but where at the place of manufacture, where there will be both manufacture and sale, and where excise duty as well as sales tax is levied, cascading effect could not be eliminated. There still existed cascading effect. That you should understand. Now you can apply this principle furthermore. Let us say this was what we will do is we will develop this example further to the next concept. That is, let us assume that the A, who is the manufacturer, is in Andhra Pradesh, and the manufacturer B is in Telangana. Manufacturer B is in Telangana. Now let us see how this will pan out. Let us see how this will pan out. A is in Andhra Pradesh, B is in Telangana, and let us see how this will pan out. Now, this person got the raw material 90 rupees and the input tax credit is 10 rupees. The central government is, since excise duty authority was with central government, it will not matter or bother where the manufacturer is there. Manufacturer is may be placed in any state, but once if he is a manufacturer, excise duty has to be paid to the central government only. So 10 rupees input tax credit he will get, and all these things remain the same: labor, overhead, total cost, shared profit, selling, and now here it is not sales tax but it is CST. It is CST. Let us assume CST used to be 2%. Let us say CST is 2%. Now, what is 2 percentage of 148.5? What is 2 percentage? 2 percentage of 148.5 is 2.97. CST at 2%. Now, this 2.97, though CST is levied by central government, but since the goods originated from Andhra Pradesh, this 2.97 will go to Andhra Pradesh. This 2.97 will go to Andhra Pradesh. Now there is another state here, it is Telangana. The 2.97 will go to Andhra Pradesh. Now what is the invoice price? It is 151.47. What is the excise duty? 13.5. 10 is ITC, and the central government will get 3.5. Now come to sales tax or CST. What is the output tax? It is 2.97. What is input tax credit? No input tax credit. He has to pay 2.97. But mind you, this 2.97 went to the Andhra Pradesh government. See, I repeat, CST though levied by the central government, it will be collected and appropriated to the state from where the goods commence their movement. Now, come to this person. If you come to this person, this fellow is also a manufacturer who is situated in Telangana. For him, the CST becomes a cost. For him, CST becomes a cost because he will not get the input tax credit. He will not get the input tax credit. 2.97 will become a cost. But excise duty, he will get input tax credit 13.5. So how much we have to calculate? We have to calculate here 135 is the cost, but 135 is the selling price. Excise duty will be kept separately and 2.97 will become a cost. That means here the CST will become a cost to this person. And the price at which it is 135, this is 13.5. So 13.5 plus 135 plus 2.97, how much is it? We'll do one thing, we will add it here, is equal to 2.97 plus 135 plus 13.5. How much it became? 151.47. This is the invoice price. Right, we got it right. Now CST became a cost. Raw material, labor, overheads. What was the total cost? The total cost the total cost is 162.97. Add profit, thereafter the selling price become 177.97, and you add excise duty at the rate of 10%. Excise duty at the rate of 10% is 17.80. 17.80. Then what is the total cost? Total 195. Now here this fellow is making intrastate sale. This fellow is making intrastate sale. Now this intrastate sale, let us assume it to be 14%. Intrastate sale, let us assume it to be 14%. Now what is 14% is equal to this into 0.14, 27, and what is the total cost is equal to this plus this. The total cost is 223.18. Now what is the excise duty output tax? It is 17.8. Previously it is 17.5. Now it is 17.8 because this is a cascading effect. Because this 2.97 is included in cost. So we came to know about the cascading effect here. It became 17.8 minus 13.5. How much is it? This minus this. It is 4.3. Here it will be 4.3. Now examine what is the excise duty at this level. It is 17.8. And what is the total of all these things? What is the total of all these things? The total of all these things is 17.8. Here also we got 17.8. Now come to the sales tax. How much? 27.41 is to be paid. 27.41 is to be paid. What is the input tax credit? 0. Why 0? Because the Telangana state did not get anything at the preceding point. At the preceding point, Andhra Pradesh government got 2.97. Because Telangana government did not get anything at the preceding point, now the entire 27.41 has to be paid to the Telangana government. So you can't get the input tax credit. Now these two items, 2.97 went to AP government and 27.41 went to the Telangana government. Here lies the difference. So though there were VAT systems in excise duty as well as the state government sales tax, but still cascading effect was there. The Telangana government could not give the input tax credit to Mr. B, manufacturer in Telangana, because the 2.97 which was paid as a sales tax at the preceding point was not received by the Telangana state government. It went to the AP government. Now this will also become more complex when service tax is included. Let us say there is also, we already looked into CST as well as the state level VAT. Now there is something called as service tax. Now this was a central government subject. Where service tax was paid, it was allowed to the manufacturer because both excise duty as well as service tax was the central government subjects. So credit of service tax paid used to be allowed from excise duty, and excise duty paid was allowed as a credit while payment of service tax. So because excise duty and service tax both are the central government subjects. But when it comes to service tax and sales tax, the input tax credits were not available because the sales tax goes to the state governments and the service tax goes to the central government. Also, prior to GST regime, the Constitution of India did not give the authority to levy tax on services to the state governments. The state governments did not have the power to levy service tax at all. So, these were certain issues which were prevailing prior to the introduction of GST. So, now you can understand these wordings better. What is the need for GST? Because there were deficiencies which were existing at the time when the GST was introduced. Before GST was introduced, there were certain illnesses, there were certain deficiencies in that existing system of indirect taxes. Therefore, GST was introduced. Now, let us go through these points. You keep in mind all the explanation I gave in the example, and then we will go through these points. You will understand it very clearly. So, what were the deficiencies? Double taxation of transactions is one of the deficiency. I will tell you what it is. Let us take the example of a software. The state governments used to classify software as good, and they used to levy sales tax. The central government used to classify software as a service, and they used to levy service tax. So that software used to suffer both service tax as well as this VAT or state sales tax. So certain goods or certain products or items used to suffer both service tax as well as the commodity tax or sales tax by the state governments. So the prices will increase, and it resulted in a double taxation. Now under the GST model, goods and services are treated at par. So under the GST regime, this software will suffer only one tax, that is GST. Now the next one is the non-availability of credit. In the previous example, we understood that excise duty paid was not allowed as input tax credit while calculating the state level VAT. You also examined that here the while calculating the invoice price, while calculating the sales tax, what has happened is this amount included excise duty also. So thereby it resulted in cascading effect, that is tax on tax. Next, the next point is while set off of one was not available against other, we already understood. And also another disadvantage was there were many taxes levied by states such as luxury tax, entertainment tax, NT tax, etc. Those taxes were not subsumed into VAT and they were kept separate, and VAT used to be levied. Now, what has happened in GST is that the GST has subsumed all these most of the varieties of taxes which was levied by the state governments. Now, VAT was not integrated with tax on services. This we also understood that the state governments did not have the power to levy tax on services. The state governments used to levy tax only on commodities. they did not have the authority to levy tax on services. Now, the service sector of late is increasing in a much faster way. Now, if the state government do not have the authority to levy tax on services, there will not be any buoyancy of revenue for the state governments. So, there was a necessity that the state government will also have the power to levy tax on services. Now, under the GST regime, the state government has also the power to levy tax on services. Next, coming to CST, there used to be some tax called central sales tax, which was levied on intrastate trade or commerce. So, where the goods are sold from one state to another state, that CST was leviable. Now, in the previous example, we understood that if CST is levied, now input credit was not available because A paid the CST to AP government. But later on, B, who bought the goods, who is in Telangana, could not take the input credit of 2.97 from 27.41 because at the preceding point 2.97 went to AP government, and it can't be allowed as input tax credit by Telangana government because it did not receive it at the preceding point. That is another drawback which was there. So to sum up, so what are all the deficiencies which existed in the earlier indirect tax regime? There are several taxes levied by the state government like luxury tax, entertainment tax, etc., which were not subsumed into the VAT at that time. Now all of them have been subsumed into GST. Now there used to be something called as SENVAT, but that SENVAT was available only at the manufacturing stage. And also, state governments had no power to levy tax on services. It implies that the state level VAT was not integrated with the services. The authority to levy service tax used to be or vested with the central government, but the authority to levy tax on sale of commodities vested with the state government. Now, some items like software used to suffer both sales tax as well as service tax. That was another illness of the previous indirect tax regime. And also, there used to be cascading of taxes because CST was not VATable, and also from the state level VAT, excise duty paid was not allowed as an input tax credit. So, though there was VAT system in excise duty as well as the state level sales tax, but still there existed certain problems, certain cascading effects, certain double taxation, multiplicity of taxes. So a whole lot of things were there. In order to avoid all those things, this GST has been introduced. So see you in the next class.